Hey Han, I'm Chloe and this is the Carousel tutorial. My mission is to share my passion for pole dancing and make pole dancing easy to learn and accessible. This is the 25th video of the beginner pole trick tutorial series. In order to maximize your training out of all the videos, I highly recommend you to start from the very first video of this playlist, as the tricks will be a progression of the video before. The carousel is a really cute trick. We have 4 different leg variations today. This video is mirrored for your ease of learning. I'll also have a red wristband on my right wrist and my right ankle to indicate the right side of my body if you do get confused with the directions. This trick tutorial is created for you for informational and educational purposes only, and for you to enjoy learning pole dancing from the comfort of your own home. Please participate at your own risk and don't work beyond your capability, and seek help or spotting when necessary. For any health concerns, please make sure to seek professional medical advice. Please also make sure you warm up your body before you start this video. I have a warm-up playlist depending on your level under the playlist warm up, so that you can try that before you do the tricks. If you enjoy this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up so that I know to create more of these kinds of videos, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet so that you are notified every single week I upload a video. If you're looking to further your pole journey and combining tricks and dance together, then consider signing up to my online learning platform, Pole Art Vault, where we put all the tricks together into a combo and learning an entire routine with combos and dance together. You can find the link in the description below for further information. Alrighty, without further ado, let's get into the carousel tutorial. Rightio, let's get into our conditioning. For our conditioning today, we are going to do our split grip straddle or V-leg. So what you're gonna do is you're going to pull in your top arm as always, but with your bottom hand, you're going to turn your palm up into the ceiling, and then you're gonna grab the pole with your index finger pointing down. Now, in order to do this grip, let's just try it from a standing position rather than doing it from an aerial position. So you're gonna grab the pole with your top arm, you're gonna grab the bottom arm in a index finger pointing down, and then making sure that you either straighten your arm, or if you have an hyperextended elbow, you want to bend your elbow slightly. Now, let's just talk briefly about hyperextension. Hyperextension is if your arm goes over that 180-degree angle, if your palm is facing up, and then your arm goes over that 180 degree. Now, if you can see my arm is actually slightly hyperextended, meaning I'm gonna have to bend my elbow ever so slightly, so micro bend that elbow when I push in my bottom arm. Now, if you don't have a micro bend in your elbow, that's really fine. You can just extend your arm as per usual. But if you hyperextend your elbow, if you have hyperextended elbows, you are going to really push into that arm, and then that's really gonna affect your arm in the long run, and it's going to even hyperextend, and that is gonna cause injury in your arm. So make sure you bend that elbow. This is really, really crucial. So you're gonna come onto your toes, you're gonna pull in your top arm, push away with your bottom arm, make sure that your index finger is facing down. Now, when you're in this position, make sure that the pole here, your arm to pole is about 45-degree angle, and your top arm is about 45-degree angle as well. And then you're going to bring your knee towards the knee to shoulder, and then you're going to straddle forward. So I'm just going to do it from this angle so that you can see it in a different angle. Make sure that when you're bringing your leg up, that you keep your top body very straight and tight, and then you're going to bring your leg up. And let's try doing 3 on each side. Now, this particular conditioning, it is quite tricky in my opinion. Might not be for you, but for me, I would find it really, really tricky, especially if I'm in the very early days of doing my pole journey. So The trickiest part is probably keeping your upper body really, really tight, and also to bring your leg up with your knee straight. So this is going to be really good conditioning for your legs and also for your upper body. If you can't get it, that is totally fine. If you can bring your leg ever so slightly up, you're doing a beautiful job. Now there's your progression, bringing your leg all the way up, or regression, bringing your leg a teeny bit up, and you're good. All right, let's try one last one. So 3 on each side. And then bring your leg up and coming down. Beautiful, well done. Let's try on the other side. Top arm, nice and high, bottom arm, index finger pointing down. Make sure that you create that sort of 45-degree angle with your arm to pull. And then bring your leg up as much as you can. Good, 2 more. And last one. Well done, and that is conditioning done. Rightio, let us go through our carousel. Now with our carousel, as I mentioned earlier, we have 4 different leg variations. You can try this on a spin pole or static. They work on both, so whichever one you prefer. Now as always, I am on a spin pole because that's just my preference. Now this is what a carousel looks like. First leg variation, second leg variation, third leg variation, fourth leg variation. Rightio, let us break down all the different leg variations. Now, with our carousel, the hand positioning is exactly the same as what we did in our conditioning. Now again, make sure that if you have hyperextended elbows, elbows that go over that 180-degree angle, that you bend your elbow. So you want to really create that micro bend in your elbow. And then you're going to grab the pole, index finger pointing down. Now, when you're finding this a little too much in your wrist, then make sure that you abort. Abort, abort, abort. So this is like really wrist heavy. And also if you're not pulling in your top arm, you might feel that extra pressure on your bottom hand as well. So creating that really good balance of pulling your top arm and then pushing your bottom arm. Now from here, you're going to step in with your inside leg. And in the first leg variation, you are going to kick your leg backwards, like how we did in our float with both of your legs bent. Now, if you haven't watched the float tutorial, I do highly recommend you to watch that one. And that one is way less abrasive on your bottom wrist, especially if you have any prior wrist injuries or current wrist injuries, or just generally a weak wrist. So, pull in your top arm, push away with your bottom arm. I'm going to micro bend my elbow because I've got hyperextended elbows. And then from here, I'm going to step in with the inside leg, and then I'm going to kick my ankle towards my bum. And make sure that you bring your knee not towards your chest, but away. And there's your first leg variation. Well done. Let's try it on the other side. Inside hand comes nice and high, outside hand, palm facing up, index finger pointing down. You're gonna step in with your inside leg, micro bend your elbow if you need to, and then you're gonna kick your leg backwards. Well done. All right, let's try our next leg variation. It is one leg bent, one leg straight. So you're gonna bring your inside leg up, and then you're gonna kick your outside leg back. So when you're kicking your leg backwards, make sure that you're not kicking sort of like to your side, but you wanna kick it backwards. So inside and up, outside hand down. Step in with your inside leg, and then all you're doing is bringing your knee, inside knee up, and then outside leg straight. Beautiful. Let's try it on the other side. Inside and up, outside hand down. Step in with your inside leg, bring your inside knee up. And then coming down. Beautiful. Alrighty. Third one, it is both leg straight. Now, when you're kicking both of your legs straight, make sure that you kick it backwards. So again, you're not kicking your leg to your side. So if I'm like setting this way, not to your side, but you're kicking it backwards. So you almost want to create a slight arch. You just think about elevating your chest up. You don't have to like arch your back so much. If you want to, obviously, you're more than welcome to make that like sort of like extra dramatic effect and make it look even nicer. You're more than welcome to, but inside and up, outside in, down. You're gonna step in with the inside leg, bring your outside leg up, and then there is your straight leg carousel. Beautiful. Let's try it on the other side. Inside and up, outside and down. Step in with your inside leg, keep your outside leg glued. And there's the other side. Yes. Alrighty. Let's try our last leg variation. Now, this is the one that we did in our conditioning as well. And as I always mention, our conditioning is supposed to be hard. Now, if you are finding this one hard, it is totally normal. I would almost even say that this is more of like almost like an intermediate trick. Now, when you're bringing your leg, this time, instead of bringing your leg backwards, you are bringing it forward. So your aim here is almost to come into sort of like a nice straddle. So if you want to try this from the floor, what you're essentially doing is you're coming into a straddle this way. So making sure that you're pointing your toes and squeeze your knees as well. Now with this particular trick, I find that unless you can really keep your legs straight, it is a bit of a tricky one and it doesn't look as pretty. You end up like looking like a cockroach and we really want to avoid that. So this is great for conditioning, but again, if you're finding it tricky, totally fine. This is just like a little bonus carousel, I should say. So inside and up, outside and down. You're gonna step in with your inside leg and then you're gonna bring your knee up and then straddle. To come down, stepping down. Alrighty, again, if you're finding this tricky, don't stress. This is just a bonus for those that are like super strong or maybe like you've like done a lot of conditioning in your legs or also in just general body. So inside and up, outside and down on the other side. Step it in with your inside leg, bringing your leg forward into a straddle. Rightio. So there is all of your carousel spin, different leg variations. So both leg bent, one leg bent, one leg straight, both legs straight, and your last one, straddle or V-leg variation. Well done. Now let's go through some tips and common mistake. Common mistake number one is the one that I have just been mentioning from the conditioning and also for the trick tutorial. This one, I cannot stress enough, is your bottom hand or bottom wrist and your elbow as well. Now, for this particular trick, you are going to need a lot of conditioning for your wrists as well. So if you are trying this for the first time, and since this is sort of like a new grip that we've done in our beginner pole trick tutorial series, is to make sure that you warm up your wrists a lot. Now I incorporate wrist warm up in my warm up, and if you haven't been warming up, I don't know what you've been doing. You better be warming up before this, or else you are going to injure yourself and it's terrible. But if you need extra warm up in your wrist, make sure that you really warm up your wrist before you try this one. You can do some wrist circles, circling it out, in, also coming onto your knees, applying a bit of pressure into your wrist, really pushing into your wrist. This is gonna help you, so like pushing your bum off the floor and then pushing into your wrist. And also practicing that push on the pole as well. Now, let's talk hyperextension. I obviously mentioned it quite briefly in the trick tutorial, but when you have hyperextended elbows, and if you end up really pushing past that 180-degree angle, is that over time, you're applying even more pressure, and what's gonna happen is your body is sort of like it's almost like a, I shouldn't really say like elastic band, but once you push too much, worst case scenario, it's gonna go, and I didn't really make that sound well, but I've seen some cases where like that happens, and you are going to really injure your arm badly. So please, 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 please make sure that you keep that micro bend in your elbow so that you are safely executing this trick and you don't cause any injuries or any sort of like inflammation over time. Now, next one is, I guess, just like general leg positioning when you're doing your different carousel kicks. Now for the big legs, make sure that you're not bringing your knee forward, but you're bringing your knee away from the pole. So remember, away. So you want to think about kicking your ankle towards your bum and then really squeezing your bum. You will feel that squeeze in your bum. This is a really good glute exercise. Making sure that you're really kicking your back. Now, other thing is making sure that both your top hand and your bottom hand is creating a very equal sort of like triangle. So I'm just gonna do this from the side as how I'm doing now so that you can see. Now, if your top arm is too high and your bottom arm is like sort of like unbalanced, then you won't be able to come into a very good split grip. So make sure that you look at yourself in the mirror or whatever reflection you have so that you can see that from your arm to pole, you're creating that 45-degree angle with your arm, and that way you are going to be engaging in your arm in the correct manner and you can avoid your injuries as well. So again, you're really pulling in that top arm and you're pushing away in your bottom arm. And then creating a micro bend in your elbow if you need to, or you can straighten it if you don't have a hyperextended elbow. Now the next thing I want to mention is obviously with your hand grip. This one is all hand grip dominant. There's no body grip whatsoever. So make sure that you wipe down the pole with methylated spirits and wipe it down with towel. You'll need a lot of hand grip for this one, so make sure you have enough hand grip. I have all the products that I like in the link in the description. I'm not sponsored for any of the products. But having said that, hand grip is very, very subjective. Hand grip that I like might not work for you. So make sure you find the sort of hand grip that you like on the market. There's gonna be a few sort of different hand grips, like if you have like sweaty hands or you have wet hands or like oily, I don't know, there's a lot of different hand grips, or even you have like dry hands. So make sure you do a bit of research. You can also even Google asking what sort of like grip is good for like dry hands or wet hands. So try different hand grips. Just because one didn't work doesn't mean that another one won't. It took me a few tries and different grip aids to get to this grip that I like, and it also depends on different material as well. So I find that like with brass poles that I use at the studios, and I've got a chrome one at home, I use different grips, so make sure you do a bit of research on that. Now the last tip I want to go through is head movement. So your head movement for this particular one is very similar to the float tutorial I did, the one before, is making sure that you look over your outside shoulder or look up towards the top of the pole. Now, if you're doing the straddle version, this is going to be very different. You might want to keep looking forward, the straddle version. But if you're doing the all three other ones, which is the both leg bent, one leg bent, one leg straight, and both legs straight, make sure you're looking over your outside shoulder or looking towards the top of the pole. And that's gonna really help you elevate that pole trick to the next level. So it's just a teeny bit of a difference, but it makes a massive difference in your trick. So this is just me looking forward, and this is me looking over my shoulder and looking towards the top of the pole. And it just creates that like extra sort of oomph, and it makes it look really pretty. So don't forget your head movement when you're doing the tricks as well. And that's all the tips and common mistakes I wanted to go through. Alrighty, before I let you go, just a little mindset tip for today. Now, I always mention this to my students, but sometimes I have some students that come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, like how long have you been doing pole dancing? You seem like you're such a natural at this. Absolutely not. Now, I don't believe that there is such thing as being a natural at something. Yes, to a certain degree, you are going to have some things that you are better at and some things that you are worse at in life. But at the end of the day, what is the most important thing is that you work on that thing consistently. Now, at the end of the day, as I mentioned, natural things, like some things come to me naturally, some things don't. And some of those things that you see, say for example for me, I find that spin pole comes to me much more naturally than static pole. That is probably due to the fact that I also practice spin pole way more than static. I obviously started off on a spin pole. I still love static, but spin definitely comes to me naturally. And also, probably because I used to figure skate as well. So I'm used to a lot of spin, sort of like flow, graceful, that sort of movements obviously come to me naturally, but that is also because I practiced it since I was very, very young. So at the end of the day, you might think, oh, this person seems like they're really naturally good at something, but you don't know the history. Maybe you might not know that they've done something way more, or the quantity of time that they've put into quality of the training. So just remember, before you assess or even like sort of judge is a bit of a, it could be negative, but also positive. Really depends on how you take it. But just remember that some people have gone through different circumstances to become who they are. And just remember that everyone's on a different journey as well. So it is sometimes really hard to say if someone is natural or not. All you need to be is consistent and enjoy the pole journey as always. Thank you so much for joining me in the carousel tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you in the very next tutorial. Bye!